Hey, is this thing on? Hey, is it? Oh, I don't know. All right. I didn't do any work on my Stream Deck, so you're not getting the phone numbers right away. I'm going to have to work on it. Good morning, Buckshot. It's the Cookie Monster. So we're starting off the day with a very simple word, ladies and gentlemen. Cookie Monster, can you tell us today's word? It is?
Duplicitous.
What was that, Cookie Monster?
Duplicitous.
Ah, duplicitous. Yeah. Everything that's going on right now is based on duplicitousness or duplicity. So today's word in society is duplicity. Buckshot. Bayonet, welcome to the show. Thank you for showing up. Did either of you watch any of the worldwide politics, worldwide conflict on television recently? Dial-in number is 712-775-7465. Participant code is 365881. Now I'm going to go through popping out the chat box here. So in this tutorial, we show you how to put your chat box into OBS Studio. Do that. Now, you don't want to share what's going on with the rest of the crowd. So you have to push studio mode. And don't be like the ADD that I have, where somebody puts something in the chat box, I stop and stare. Boom, boom, kitty cat, kitty cat. Yeah, shift makes me upset too. I guess, you know, having hatred in my heart doesn't bother me. So I'm allowed to hate. I'm allowed to be afraid. You know, it's how you, it's whether or not, you know, I'm allowed, you can't outlaw those emotions. But
decorum.
That's what matters.
Decorum.
You know, I know I have decorum because I've never been shot in the street and I don't pick fights.
Decorum.
I'll take people as far as I can to see who they are and test their mettle because that's polite.
Decorum.
But you know, the only time I've ever had anybody actually come after me was because they were expressing their hatred just outright. It had nothing to do with anything that I had done. They just hated blue-eyed, brown-haired, pink skin. And that's what I experienced. You know, unbeknownst to those. All right, let me see. Anyway, let's go back to listening to C-SPAN radio because it really does make the point of duplicity.
President's henchmen executing the orders. The documents are black and white. Documents don't lie. We are entitled to them. We're not doing the House's job. The House was blocked by the president, who refused to provide those documents and who prevented the witnesses from coming forward.
Duplicity
so
again, man.
Our responsibility under the Constitution is to seek the truth and put aside whether we like the lawyers or not on either side. We need to look at the facts and the law.
There you go. Fix the floor a little bit.
This is Senator Richard Blumenthal, member of the Judiciary Committee. To that end, to another topic.
I'm sorry you're getting buffered.
Senator, it was yesterday that the Justice Department revealed yesterday that FISA warrants against Carter Page 2 were declared invalid. What do you think about this revelation?
I think this revelation should support the call for reform that I have made. It reinforces the idea that there needs to be some check and balance, some adversarial scrutiny, as I have urged. I hope my Republican colleagues will join me because they seem to share these misgivings about the potential accuracy of the process. In every other court, there are two.
See, right now they're trying to tell the Senate how to be their court. I don't know. Have you guys even looked into what actually is going on right now? Well, in my world, because I went to jurisdictionary.com and got a course from them, I learned how to read properly the grammar of law. And right now, sounds like a fig. A fig. Oh. Yeah, okay, man. Duplicity. He's a fig. Well, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. They're figs. But anyway, right now, they're in the arraignment phase. So if this guy really wanted the way of as the court plays, he's trying to rewrite the way courts work. Because first you have the investigator, then the investigator puts together his dossier, and then he goes and talks to a judge. And if you're lucky in America, you get to go talk to the judge at the same time. That's what's going on right now. It's called arraignment. And what they're doing is checking and seeing if there's enough information there and there's a real crime to proceed to trial. Nadler and crew wanted to skip arraignment. And this is duplicity on C-SPAN, duplicity on TV, duplicity everywhere, is that they're allowing the American public to run their pie hole with no knowledge and understanding of the situation. The grammar hasn't been taught to them. It was intentional. Everything we need to run in a polite society could be taught to everybody by 8th grade, and we wouldn't need you still can use you can still have lawyers, you can still have accountants, you can still have scientists, but you don't have bars against being, you practicing it and freely associating with your neighbor. That could be taught to everybody by 8th grade. It was at one time. I don't know, bayonet, buckshot, you guys ever see those tests for 8th graders back in the 1880s? In order for them to graduate and then be emancipated? Because that's what this is all about. The educational process is about emancipation. It's about emancipation, man. Here, I'm going to try to fix this window. Oh, wait a minute. C-SPAN.
And it's hard to say what would be said. Documents being released. The Senate can look at the documents before they were released to the public, and what needs to be redacted should be redacted, because there are things that still can't be said. It's like the president's conversations in a room, and I can guarantee you can go back to JFK all the way up.
I got it done.
To Trump. Presidents may have said something about foreign leaders that we don't want other people to know about.
Okay. Okay, that's Stuart in Florida.
There he is. He's worried about secrecy.
Why?
Good morning. Whether we have witnesses or not is fine. I think we have the greatest witness, Donald Trump. Every day he comes out and proves his guilt. And this really isn't about...
She is the worst condescending motherfucker I've heard in a few days.
It's about whether or not it's unlawful and unconstitutional, an abuse of power, to ask a foreign government to investigate a United States citizen.
Oh, yeah, right. Absolutely, they do it all the time. That question's a non-starter. She's duplicitous and condescending, and I think that's the way it goes. Welcome to our new game show. How can you be
duplicitous
and get away with it? Dun, 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 dun. So I am worried about one thing.
Decorum.
That is decorum. I do care. I'm sorry, guys. I had to turn her off.
Needs to cheat to win. People keep saying, all Republicans are behind him. Only a third of this country identifies.
She pretends to know the pulse of America. There was one guy who called up, and he actually said that the difference between Donald Trump and what's his name, Bill Clinton, during this impeachment, is that Bill Clinton was popular and Trump is not. Now, the guy lives in Beltsville, Maryland, and if you know anything about Beltsville, that's a very tight community of what they call Southeast, Washington, D.C., and they call it Willy Wonka's land. And that's where the naval intelligence is and everything like that. But anyway, I digress. They live along where the sewer is, and all the waste from D.C. travels down these two rivers and meets down in there, and that's all part of Beltsville. So Beltsville is constantly being wafted from D.C. with toxins. So anyway, the guy completely is shuttered in his own world. He has no idea that there's another point of view other than his. It's unbelievable to me. And he lacked
decorum.
He just, it's very funny. It's hilarious.
Make the Democrat Trump fears the most. Vote Biden. Beat Trump.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Did he say beat Trump? Vote Biden, beat Trump?
Voters in Iowa are seeing this week, again, 10 days ahead of the caucuses. Here's the latest on national polling. Emerson College out with their first national poll of 2020, finding two clear front runners in the race. Joe Biden leading with 30%, followed closely by Bernie Sanders at 27%. Elizabeth Warren comes in third at 13%.
Yeah, you guys
Andrew
are talking
Yang
right about that.
8% now. Michael Bloomberg at 7%.
Who cares about you guys? Bloomberg is in the middle of my world. And the biggest thing I have to worry about right now is 2 inches of rain coming. It's already starting with gray. It's literally, the water is hanging in the air, and it's going to be released. And it's all of a sudden we're going to have 2 inches of rain in here. So, yeah. Well, guess who owns the patent on that new virus that is caused 80 million Chinese to be quarantined? Who do you think owns the patent on that? Well, B&M, B&MG, B&MGF. That's right, man, Buckshot. See, everybody knows what's going on. There's no secrets, but they're all duplicitous. We're all pretending that we should not arrest and put these people all down. Oh my God.
Duplicitous.
Right. And the health ranger just recently said, oh shit, we're being taken down because we're telling you not to take what is that called?
Duplicitous.
Yeah, a duplicitous virus. Don't take a
duplicitous
vaccine because a
duplicitous
man plans on
duplicitously
killing you. That's right, man. Bloomberg is such an evil fuck. Yeah, he's I heard he was a short dude too. See, I don't have facial recognition capabilities, so I meet all these people and I don't recognize them. I have this blocked inability for facial recognition. Really do. Everybody looks the same to me. A friend of mine lost some weight, got rid of his beard, and I thought he was somebody else, and I'm calling him my other buddy's name because he looks just like him to me. And he had to say, man, dude, that's not me. And of course at that point he thinks I'm gone. But it's just I just have this inability I can walk up on my sister and not recognize her. Now, other ones, because I don't have facial recognition, but I do have spatial recognition and familiarities, and I'm pretty good about that. It's, one too many bumps on the head as a child by
duplicitous
people who like to play a little rougher than I was expecting as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, right? Nah, nothing like that happened. Everything happened in my life was my own fault, right? I need to find some Democrats to let me know how bad I am.
Phone callers know, or phone screeners know, we'll get you back on. Democrats line, Don in Michigan. Hello.
Hey, Don.
Hello. Good morning, America. Good morning, C-SPAN. Good morning, Pedro. I just want to make 2 quick points on the impeachment trial. I've been watching it from the House hearings to now. And Democrats are making a very good case. I mean, they're just using Trump's own statements and his own people that he actually appointed in the State Department against him. So, I mean, it's just, if you don't believe it, you got your head in the sand.
Right. Donald Trump is using statements he read in the press when he's talking to world leaders. Oh, fucking God. The funniest thing is my own family members think that when Donald Trump said, Russia, if you have the emails, release them. The irony is that they don't care that the New York Times made that claim that the Russians hacked the Democrat server, and it was actually Russia and not a whistleblower such as an IT guy who worked for Bernie that released the emails. Donald Trump was just commenting on the national stage, and
duplicitous
people sit there and pretend that he had inside information, and he's asking for it. Yeah, he had as much inside information as my ass. I made the same joke. I laughed about it. I said, yeah, right, the Russians. Nah, yeah, the Russians are hacking. Okay, prove it. Oh, well, a Ukrainian company says so. What do you mean a Ukrainian company says? Well, no, a company owned by a Ukrainian says so. Really? Is it the same Ukrainian company that was doing internet service as Monumental Network Systems? Oh my God. I've done business with that Ukrainian company since, wait a minute, 89, 90. And, oh yeah, it's the same Ukrainian company that the Democrats have been using. Right. Well, they came to town. It was the Ukrainian company that brought porn to the internet, and Bill Clinton allowed it. They had a lock on it, man. They're the ones who brought you swipe your credit card porn. What built the internet across the United States of America was porn. Just like what created the DVD as a format for you guys to watch? Porn. And then you really sick fucks who need Blu-ray because you got to see every pimple. No, man. That was the worst. That's the worst thing is when they got better resolution and you got to see porn with DVD. That was like taking off beer goggles. That was troubles for me, man. Don't use my joke, anyone. Owen, Benjamin, you got to pay me for that one. You're going to get away with stealing.
If it was, they could prove this. And there's no evidence. They've never had it from day one, the Democrats. They don't have one misdemeanor, nothing. It's off.
A misdemeanor? A misdemeanor? A misdemeanor? No. When you go for front of an arraignment, the judge needs to know, okay, so you have all this evidence, and all this evidence is in evidence of what code or what ordinance did Shacklebrains violate. That's a crime. See, only the Democrats are allowed to investigate. And Democrats are allowed to investigate anybody they label. And Democrats have this fabulous thing called a label machine. So do I. I had the old style one time with the big ball on it, and you would sit there and A, B, C, click, 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 snap. And then I'd label it. So, see, Donald Trump hasn't learned how to label, then investigate. And the Democrats do everything through their newspapers, and that's how they validate them investigating. They put something in their newspaper, then they go, hey, let's investigate it. Now, Donald Trump is not allowed to read. No, Donald Trump's not allowed to watch a video of Biden bragging about how he stopped an investigation. Newspapers said that the investigation that was stopped was into a company owned or a member of, well, if he's on the board, he's an owner. You know, generally you've got stock, so you're an owner. So he's got shares in it. It didn't say honorary, but he's an owner. He physically owns shares. So unless you can tell me he sits on the board and doesn't own shares, because that's all part of the compensation. Anyway, he sits on the board. Okay. Boy, that sounds suspicious. Right. We're not going to investigate. So when Donald Trump, being in charge, doesn't he get to say, hey, please check this out, check that out? I go on in. Isn't he a guy sitting at a big table like I am right now and saying, I'd like a report on this situation. Hey, I need a report. New York Times said this. Give me a report on that. Right? Doesn't he have a right to see these reports? And now he's in trouble because he's acting on those reports? Gee, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't believe that.
Had to send up a letter, but does she send letters to President Trump? Is she not offended by everything he does? Is she not offended by all the presentation that she's witnessing right now? Is she not offended by everything she's hearing enough to call a witness? And then Lisa Murkowski saying that, you know, will evidence even matter? So I think it's pretty telling that we know where this is going. As far as Susan Collins goes, I feel like the only way she's going to vote for somebody would be if another person votes with her, or if she's not that fourth person voting. She's not going to be the first and only one, and she's definitely not going to be that fourth vote.
Okay.
So I think
That's Gloria in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. One of the people making presentations yesterday, the impeachment manager, Representative Val Demings of Florida. She spoke to senators on behalf of the American voters, as she characterized it, and also responded to criticisms that these efforts by the Democrats are about the 2020 election.
Now let me say this also. Each time that we remind this body of the president's scheme to cheat to win, some of his defenders say that we are only concerned about winning the next election, that Democrats are only doing this to win the next election, but you know better. Because this trial is much bigger than any one election, and it's much bigger than any one president. This moment is about the American people. This moment is about ensuring that every voter, whether a maid or a janitor, whether a nurse, a teacher, or a truck driver, whether a doctor or a mechanic, that their vote matters, and that American elections are decided by the American people. President Trump acted corruptly. He abused the power of his office by ordering
Yeah,
U.S.
Democrats are okay with elections as long as they're in charge of it all. But as soon as they lose control over an election, oh no, it's the election is
investigations were designed
right. That's how they roll.
to help his personal
I'm sorry, guys. I can't handle the yammering of that lady anymore. She is very
duplicitous,
and she thinks that you're her property, and she's going to do what she wants with you because Jesus Christ. She screams, "We went through our own oppression, and now I'm going to oppress you," because she's double-minded.
duplicitous,
Now, I found it interesting. I've read I've read all the paperwork submitted to the Senate, and I find it interesting that the Democrats, after the Republicans in their brief used the word
duplicitous,
they started to use it. So it's the Saul Alinsky. I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? Come on, say it. I'm the good guy. They have people calling up, Lindsey Graham trying to maintain some sort of
decorum.
Actually said that he thinks that Joe Biden's not corrupt. But Joe Biden is not above being looked into. Okay. But the Democrats don't have any
decorum.
And they're not going to. So while Lindsey Graham, come on. McCain's best friend, he knows that everything points to a Biden being
duplicitous,
because Lindsey Graham himself is
duplicitous,
and everybody else who's a congressman and senator for the most part is
duplicitous.
And there's a few exceptions that I don't think have duplicity in their heart. And that'd be like Rand Paul. So,
duplicitous.
Yeah, Rand Paul has curls of innocence. He has that. He could be that fairy character in the Kennedy assassination. Yeah. Let's see. Have they moved on?
Today also brings up Kim Strassel. His tweet from earlier this morning, just before 8 a.m. Eastern, crying Chuck never had what it takes and never will, and he linked to the Wall Street Journal opinion columnist Kimberly Strassel and her column today. The headline on that column, Schumer whiffs on impeachment. The Democratic leader succeeds only in unifying the Republican caucus. Kimberly Strassel writing her Potomac Watch column for the Wall Street Journal. And then just a couple other tweets coming back to Marsha Blackburn. She tweeted even later in the afternoon about the Obama administration strategically withholding funding and foreign aid to countries like Ukraine and Pakistan and Colombia, the Philippines.
Nah, who cares? Obama, what was he doing? He was making sure the money ran through the apparatus to go to their government side of the bank ledgers, go to NGOs, and make their way back into the pockets of the people who made all that happen. That's what you witnessed in the Congress, was them exposing their custody, their chain of custody. Donald, I hope all those people have ankle bracelets, because they're all involved with funneling money back into the pockets of their masters. Right, Hillary? Right, Hillary? Okay. Dave Hodges dumped info for everybody to look at when it comes to, well, that
duplicitous
behavior of the Bidens. I'm right there on the edge of squealing. I got a nice reverb going as I'm speaking to you? Da 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 da. Here on the stage. Okay, losing your mind. Let's see. They moved on past the comments.
That sounds like a conspiring to do something that other people don't realize what they're doing. Also, I'm concerned about these people that claim that they're concerned about abortion. And,
no. We'll keep it to the topic at hand for today. Rudy in Seattle, Washington, Democrats line. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Go ahead.
Well, having watched this thing since the inquiry and all the evidence that was gathered in the House, it appears to me that the conclusion is it's already cooked in. There isn't going to be any witnesses. There'll be nothing at the end of this. These people are going to be so tired.
You know, the Democrats, the way that they do trials
what does that say about the exercise as a whole?
They go label.
As long as Trump
now,
is allowed
we don't really have anything that laws they've broken. So, but let's get right to it and give us that warrant so we can go look through all their stuff. And you show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
You can't call a witness.
This guy doesn't understand the process. He's woefully ignorant.
He said himself, Trump
and
said,
he thinks
we've got all the documents. They haven't got any. So what does that tell you? This is nothing but a scam.
If the documents and the witnesses are called for, clearly legal battles will take place after that. Are you comfortable with it stretching out over many months to have all those things resolved?
I think they're just going to have to call a recess, and when they're able to get through the court system, they can come back and make their decision at the end. But that's not the way it's going to go. Thank you very much for taking the call.
Rudy in Washington.
So now they're managing. What he's just discussing is taking this all the way through the election.
Yesterday,
we're headed
cameras about the trial.
We know that Justice Roberts is going to lean to Obama. Whatever they use to get him to betray the American people with Obamacare is what they're going to use, and they're continuing to use to get him to eventually throw a key decision, because something's going to come down possibly. As far as I'm concerned, Romney and the two ladies who spoke up, they're going to cross the aisle. And so there's going to be some sort of a come to they're out of ammo, so viruses and whatever will be the next scene, enjoy the shit show. That's right, because it's all, it's right. It's all
duplicitous.
But kayfabe
is starting in a few days.
This is really
opening arguments. It sure sounded like me as if he was saying the voters cannot be trusted.
Donald Trump
he was saying the
had his moment of enlightenment.
2016 and the voters can't be trusted.
His moment of enlightenment
and he's
came
the one that ought to determine
when
who the president of the United States
continued the Russian hoax,
for the voters to speak.
And
they're going to start speaking.
I think it was Rosenstein or Stein.
Iowa, and the whole country will have a chance
you've been labeled, so you're going to have to produce all the documents.
In the
You've been labeled.
United States.
See, Donald doesn't understand the label produce.
Senator John
Rosenstein said you got to produce.
And they did the Mueller report. The Mueller investigation. And
what's going on.
The fact that Donald Trump had all the information, now he was president of the United States, and his own Justice Department said, oh, we're going to play this out because Democrats have labeled you.
Independence, 202-748-8002, and you can text us at 202-748-8003. We'll go back to John McCardle.
Pedro, just a reminder.
They've labeled you.
While the impeachment trial of President
they've labeled you, Mr. President. So now we're going to investigate this whole Russian connection because we know the Russians are connected.
A speaking engagement.
We all know the result of it. But anyway, he tweeted it out.
47th annual March for Life.
He tweeted that shit the fuck out, man.
In Washington, D.C., some of anti on Washington, D.C. hand to be from all listening.
It's breaking up.
This from
he tweeted it out. It's called a kayfabe,
saying the fight for life will win in America.
That was the end of
because it gives
any and all
that every life has value
because it's no longer polite.
And one more tweet from Senator John Kennedy.
It's a cage match.
This morning, just
he knows that
saying
he can't do anything about anybody who tells lies about him.
Medical care, but
they're immune.
Corners at their
and all they're doing is claiming that he's lying about them.
Safety Act to ensure women have easy access.
He had that moment of enlightenment, and it came after the appointed Mueller, and he realized he has no control over this behemoth that he was elected to be in charge of. It is 100% being run by the Purple Tie Gang.
Will pursue comprehensive restrictions on abortion.
All Donald can do is chisel away into it, hopefully, as far as he's concerned. And I'd really like to
bill, unlike last year's heartbeat bill, which passed in the House but did not receive.
I'm not going to let it. I was going to let something out of my head, and I've decided I'm not going to share it. I know it pisses you off. It pisses me off when other people do that too.
Clause, for example,
I find that to be rude and lacking of
decorum.
But sometimes you just got to say
bans on abortion will kick in at 8, 10, 12 weeks, and so on, up to the point where the bans in other states have been upheld.
Enjoy the shit
show.
That's
in the Tennessean today, if you want to read more on that. Back to the March for Life here in Washington, D.C.
Bayonet news.
Just one other.
We're all ready. I got my charcoal masks.
News quoting
I
Lisa
bought them
who's
in the past.
For the United States
I also have
out of New Mexico,
a warehouse
wondering if the
full of charcoal liners
covered because
for doing
as writes the media is afraid of the truth.
What is that called? Safe rooms.
Coverage of the March for Life rally in Washington D.C. begins at noon this morning.
Prepared for this. We all had to prepare.
C-SPAN.org.
And you rotate that stock
on the free C-SPAN radio app.
Even though it's carbon, it breaks down
at 1 p.m. Eastern
because it's tied into polymers, and the polymers break down.
The impeachment trial.
Because all polymers these days have enzymes in them that cause them to break down. If they don't, that's a special level of polymer.
I've been on a long time, but I'm hoping I can still speak.
It's a controlled substance.
You're on now. Go right ahead.
I've watched this whole thing. You know, I'm a widow, and I have a lot of time to watch, and it's interesting. But I had a son that was an attorney, and he was killed in a car wreck. But I always would help him do things and show him the simplest way to look at things. And I think that they're just not looking at this. The president was friendly with the new president in Ukraine. And I think he promised that he was going to get rid of the corruption in that place. And so our president paid the money for 2 years. But this year they had a new president, and that's why he called and asked him to help him find out about the corruption. And another thing that I'd like to say is that we all know that the FBI has already admitted that this was all a false thing. And so I don't understand why they're wasting the time that they're doing all this to our president.
Jeremy in Lawrence, Kansas, Independent Line. Hello.
All right, lady. Thanks.
You're on. Go ahead.
Thank you for C-SPAN. And I would just like to say that if we had a functioning rule of law in this country, this would be an open and shut case. But I think we have a dysfunctional rule of law in this country.
Duplicitous.
And but I think what people should do is read the book Proof of Conspiracy, How Trump's International Collusion is Threatening American Democracy by Seth Abramson. Every member of Congress should have already been showed it by
Abramson. Oh, yeah. Here. That's what Yovanovitch, Nadler, Schiff. Right. We should all listen to them.
Members of the Jeffrey Epstein legal team are the ones.
Dude, you're not an independent. You lied.
Defending the president from an open and shut case of basically the ongoing violations of the emolument clause that his entire administration has been from day one. And it's Alan Dershowitz and Kenneth Starr were there to help make the sweetheart deal with former Secretary of Labor Alex Acosta that Trump appointed, and it's.
And how does that particularly appeal to the impeachment charge laid against the president?
Well, this is where the Democrats have failed, and the reason I brought up that book, Proof of Conspiracy.
No, but you tell me, besides what the book says, how did the Democrats fail then? You tell me why.
That they limited the hangout of Trump's crimes only to Russia, because there's a whole Middle East component to this, as we've seen very recently with the breaking story about the hacking of the phone of Jeff Bezos, apparently via the head of the Saudi Arabian government. And that was via...
Okay, made your point. Carlos, Ridgewood, New York, Democrats line.
Yes. Yeah, I'm wondering why nobody understands that everything Trump is doing is for Putin. Everything leads right back to Russia. Nobody sees this. He tries to say Ukraine is corrupt, but the only one winning is Putin.
Give me a specific how.
People died.
Hey, Carlos, give me a specific how this leads back to Russia.
How it leads back to Russia?
Give me a specific, yeah.
Okay, who's the one that's pushing up on Ukraine? Russia, right? They're trying to take over their country, right? Okay, so we hold back money from them. They're not able to protect themselves, and they don't have no respect from nobody because they figure they're not going to get nothing from no help from nobody.
But that was, as the president said, the money was eventually released.
Yeah, eventually, but in all that time that they didn't release it, Putin did whatever he wanted, and he moved his troops up closer, and more Ukrainians died. People don't see it that way, but that's exactly...
That's so funny because that was under Obama. That guy doesn't know that Obama was the president when that happened. He's so stupid. He is stupid, and he's stupid because he does not know how to learn.
During these trials, it was reported last night and this morning, Trump is telling these Republican jurors to stay in lockstep. If you don't, I'm not going to help you with your campaigns.
Well, no, but they're not jurors right now. They are judges, you dumb fuck. See, this is the lack of grammar. We are dealing with a
duplicitous
media system, right? They're the judges, and the sergeant at arms is Roberts.
I don't know where these people are getting their information, but the loyalty and the security comes first for this country.
Paul in Clay City, Kentucky.
National security comes first in this country, and national security is communism. Communist International!
Dumber the Democrats have made the American people these days. I mean, think about it. There's no obstruction of Congress. So they're going to get him for obstruction for exercising his right to defend itself. That makes absolutely no sense.
Sure it does. The FBI and the Justice Department charges people with obstruction when they choose to remain silent, and they say, oh, well, we still want to know what you say, so you can say whatever you want and we'll not prosecute you. There's no exception to that, but they've created it.
Here.
Erie, Pennsylvania. Bill, independent line.
Hey, good morning, Pedro. Thank goodness C-SPAN's covering this. My wife and I have been...
Vote Pedro for president.
And in between, we go to the other networks, and the other networks, we've been copying it down here, and it's about 85 or 90% against the administration. That's not fair. But if we talk about free and fair elections in America, Pedro, let's go back to 2016, to the primary of 2016, when we were supporting Bernie Sanders, and the DNC, pulled the rug out from underneath Bernie Sanders, and they're starting to do it again right now.
Yeah, Buck, Bayonet, you're absolutely right. And it's not, you know why you see so much special kind of stupid nowadays? Not because it wasn't there before. It's just that everybody is at the point where we're 15 minutes of fame on the stage. So everybody talks now. Everybody's willing, the fear factor is gone for media. So there's too many witches, too many warlocks, and too many dupes.
How does that apply to the impeachment process that we're talking about?
Because it all points to corruption, all right?
Duplicitous.
And listen, one more point.
If anybody had anything to do with the last election, through the last election, it was James Comey. James Comey, when he came on and said all those bad things about Hillary, and Pennsylvania, here in Pennsylvania, over there in Ohio, it was only about 100,000 votes that made the difference.
Okay, well, again, we're not talking about James Comey today. We're talking about the impeachment, which you said you watched. What did you gain from yesterday, then, specifically?
Well, I have to say what the other people were calling in said, that they just kept going over the same thing. I mean, they went over the same thing like 20 times, and you know.
Yeah, you know why they went over it 20 times? Because that's all they got, and they're so
duplicitous
that they just didn't state their case. See, they're showing no respect to the Senate at this point. They're not there to convince the judges of anything at this point. They've been told that they have 24 hours they can use the talk, and so since they have no respect for the judge, they've already said that. And they're
duplicitous.
They're just going to filibuster for the 24 hours. Now, unfortunately, you know, Donald Trump doesn't want it to happen on Saturday, so he can actually instruct his crew to this afternoon at the end of the show say, look, we're going to give away 8 hours. No, we don't want to be here on Saturday, so you can. We'll just burn it, and then we'll just talk, and then we'll do it on Monday. Now, the best thing that they can do is follow through on their plan, which is the outline they submitted to the Senate. The Democrats submitted an outline, and now all they're doing is beating the dead horse with it, and they're showing no respect for the senators. Because as a judge myself, I'm one of the good people of Virginia, and you too are one of the good people, and you should be, and you're a judge also. And don't fall into the trap of all these people calling up C-SPAN, because they're not judges. They're yammers. You know, they're repeaters. I haven't heard any of them, and I've been listening to it every morning since the beginning of this shitstorm back in this week. You know, the impeachment.
Finally, high crimes and misdemeanors involve conduct that is recognizably wrong.
Right. Recognizably wrong. That's their new code. Their code is recognizably wrong. So, no, it has to be, that's right, recognizably wrong. Well, how do you know if something's wrong? Well, you broke the golden rule. That's one of them. But in the kayfabe society, it has numbers. Yes. And Cookie Monster. It was brought to you today by Cookie Monster Bayonet. And today's word is
duplicitous.
That's right. And when you're dealing with
duplicitous,
it doesn't
Decorum.
matter. It doesn't matter how much
Decorum
you have. You're going to be you're playing in the pigsty. It's the pigsty. Anyway, I have been successfully derailed to another day. So the lack of people's ability to discuss this with any grammar and logically does not exist at this point. You know, the guy calling they're not jurors. They're not jurors until after they're done, because they decide if it moves forward to trial. They decide what witnesses. They decide if somebody's, there is a trap that's there. And at this point, if the Senate votes, they can put any one of the people involved with it in jail now. And I saw Shifty Shift sit there and giggle when he said that you know, if you don't follow, if you break the rules in here, you can go to jail. And he smiled because he knows that if he was in charge, there people would already be in jail. if he was in charge. The Republicans are acting so polite while they're getting pissed on. I'm so tired of the target practice. I'll bayonet. You know, some things are pretty dry, but, you know, anyway. It's been a good show. I'm wearing thin now, but C-SPAN, thank you for putting the shit show and letting me gather the real temperature. I do know that they have shills call in there, because we used to at one point organize and call into C-SPAN, and we had a script, and we would use that script where we would start to read, Pedro for president would cut you off, and then the next person in our group would pick up where we left off on that script until we got the entire message out, and we'd game C-SPAN that way, and we did it very successfully. So, and you know, to the point where they had to shut it down basically, and they had to go to big tape delay, and I don't know if they're doing tape delay like they had to go to back in the 90s, but. I'll leave you with this last thought.
This is Dean in Missouri saying, I would think both sides would embrace the idea of calling witnesses. First-hand witness account will be refreshing, not to mention essential, if they're going to come on an educated verdict. Hearsay should not even be submissible. Lara says, please remind people that the Republican lawyers haven't presented their side yet. That's why coverage is centered on the Democrats right now. And this is Steve saying, when the president is the person being tried and can block documents and witnesses from being produced by trying the case, he is being placed above the law by Republicans when they vote for this to happen. Ship of Fools off of Twitter saying Democrats only concerned if winning their next election.
They're not going to win their next election. They're going to control the next election. You watch. In Virginia, if you dare to question the governor, woo! You will pay. You will pay. You will pay. I want to thank Bayonet. God bless you, Bayonet. Thank you, Lord, for everything you've given me today, everything you've given me in my past, and everything you'll give me in my future. Thank you for every experience. This world is so beautiful that you created.
Prepare to defend yourselves.